Good evening, brothers, ladies, and gentlemen, and I think that should cover the entirety of our listening audience this evening. I am Paul Fahrenheidt, filling in for our glorious president who has been utterly spent by tax season. I am, of course, also joined by many friends of mine. We, of course, have returning as always, Mr. Pete Quinones. How are you this evening, sir?
Doing good. Doing good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We also have Mr. Alberon Quinn. How are you, sir?
Well, other than the fact that I seem to have stumbled into the wrong show, I suppose I'm as well as can be expected.
Yeah, we have a very strict segregation policy on all of our shows that we do not enforce very strongly, much like the old South. Anyway, and of course we are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Jay Engel. How are you this evening, sir?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks very much for coming. Your perspective is always valued and appreciated. Um, And before we have a slate of extremely benign and uncontroversial topics to discuss this evening. But before we get into that, we of course have to get through the shilling. We have to keep the lights on somehow over here. So if you enjoy one of America's, Hegel once said, the American spirit is tobacco. So if you enjoy partaking in the American spirit, we have an affiliate link with Alp. I myself use Alps, and I have used our affiliate link before. So if you enjoy nicotine, please go and use our link in the description. Further, if you prefer to abuse stimulants, we have a very good coffee vendor in Fox and Sons Coffee. I have not yet had the fortune to try Fox and Sons Coffee. I hope to one day, as I am a very avid coffee drinker, but I am told by many others within the club that it's some of the best coffee they've ever had. So if you want to have some good coffee in the morning and support one of our guys, use our affiliate link with Fox and Sons Coffee, also in the description. Also, it is springtime and summer is coming up. So if you want to, if you don't have your body ready, or if you want to take advantage of the warm weather to start preparing for next year, Axios Fitness Coaching provides all of your fitness needs. The community of guys, there's all kinds of programs that they have, and their link is in the description. Code OGC. Further, there are a great many events that are coming up for Brothers of the OGC, both club events and non-club events. So if you want to be looking your best, looking professional, looking frankly cultured with a very well-tailored suit, MS Vendrillo is your man. He is he is the official haberdasher of the OGC. He has made suits for, I think he's getting to the point where he's made suits for more brothers than he has not made suits for. So if you're
Your one-stop shop for the culture-bearing ascot.
It's true. It's very true.
When I saw Mr. Engel the other night, I was wearing a Vendrio blazer. Yes.
You see,
Any comment on how Pete was looking the other night, Mr. Engel?
Well, it was the first time I ever met him, but I'd give him a 10 out of 10.
outstanding. You see completely unbiased appraisal from Mr. Engel. So if that doesn't tell you the quality of Mr. Vendrillo's suits, then nothing will. So if his link is in the description. And finally, for those of you who are, just getting involved in the chapters, or you're interested in the chapters, or you're interested in just your local history generally in the United States, Tall Men Books, proprietor Mr. George Bagby, a very good friend of ours, and we fully support everything that he does. He's republishing all sorts of old textbooks from the 1890s with just frankly, not people like to make a whole lot of hay about, pre-1945 history books. And there is a certain modicum of truth to that. But ultimately, if you read books from the 1890s and earlier, the quality of writing, because of the quality of education of the writers, was much superior to many contemporary books. And that's not the only books he's publishing. He's publishing all sorts of things about regional American history, biographies, anything about American history that you would want to read, more niche, esoteric aspects, the stuff that they wouldn't teach you in school. I guess that they didn't teach you at school because it would have taken too long. But little idiosyncratic little stories about your region. Tall Men Books is the place to go.
Mr. Bagby performs Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, the great thing about the books that Bagby publishes is if you read contemporary history books, they are wrought through with moralizing. And that's not what these books are. These books tell you exactly what happened. And, you know, if a group were taking slaves, there's not 10 pages of moralizing as to why slavery is bad. You just, hey, they took slaves, move on. So
Indeed. And Mr. Bagby performs an invaluable service to the American nation specifically and to mankind generally. For if we lose our history, we lose ourselves. And Mr. Bagby is fighting a one-man war to preserve the light.
I would concur. So if you are interested in helping to fight that war, Tall Men Books in the description. All right, I believe that gets all of our shilling out of the way. And of course, before I continue, I want to have a little PBS viewers like you comment. Thank you all for super chatting. If any of you have ever sent a super chat or are one of our regular super chatters, thank you.
Your tote bags are in the mail.
It's true. Your super chats are what helps keep the club running and helps letting us do the things that we do. We are entirely funded by our own membership and our own supporters. Whatever rumors you might hear to the contrary, that is our.
I thought it was Teal money.
You know, I mean,
no, it's Qatar this week.
Well, I mean, I just got off the phone with the big Yahoo, and my check is coming in the mail, and I will be speaking at NatCon in Jerusalem later this year. So,
are you a former book salesman?
I you know, it's been said. Anyway, but thank you all for super chatting, and we're very grateful for it. All right, now that that's all out of the way, let's get into the actual stuff people are here for. And the first thing I want to talk about is actually takes place outside the United States. In Hungary, the longtime Prime Minister Viktor Orban recently lost in an election to a guy whose last name is Hungary. Which I find very interesting. I did not pay too much attention to this, but I'm sure you gentlemen have a great deal of commentary on this.
Yeah, I didn't see that his last name was Hungary. What does that mean?
Well, his last name is Magyar, which is, of course, the barbarian steppe tribe that invaded and conquered Hungary, and it now forms its dominant ethnos.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction. I've always been like an Orban fan, and he was like the last like Christian patriot of Europe who really like was always a thorn in the side of the EU and the globalist, initiatives, especially on immigration. So I was like, when I saw the headline, I was very discouraged, disappointed. And then you have like the American politicians like Obama and Clinton and like the Alex Soros and others basically celebrating. And I was like, yep, it's over for Hungary. They're going to be dispossessed of their nation. And that's just the way that Europe's going. That's basically my view now. I do find it interesting that he's like much more aware of the like temperature on immigration in Hungary, and he doesn't seem to be hustling to reverse all of Orban's restrictions. In fact, he seems to be doubling down on some of them. Like I'm sure you guys saw that he told the EU today that he's not going to sign any pact. He's not going to join in with their initiative. So who knows how long that lasts? Maybe he's just shoring things up until he actually gets into power. I tend to be skeptical of these, young guys. I don't know if he has any like Israel connections or anything like that. Maybe you guys do, but my initial thought was disappointment, but I do know that he was long a disciple of Orban. Like he had Orban's picture on his wall growing up. He was always someone who got into politics because of Orban, and he kind of digested and absorbed a lot of the priorities of Orban. I think someone said today it was either Orrin McIntyre or maybe Kevin Diana or something, but they basically said Americans, conservatives need to stop paying so much attention to the issues. Maybe it was even like Curtis Yarvin or something. Stop paying so much attention to the political issues, because the issues don't matter. What actually matters is who controls you, who you represent, what power structures are there behind you, because that's ultimately what's going to decide your political priorities. So it's really a healthy practice for us to stay away from like whether he's made statements on this or that, and really to look at where he comes from, who's supporting him, what kind of money was behind him, what kind of people are celebrating him, and make your judgments based on that. So that's my initial 60-second reaction.
Indeed, like you, I'm taking somewhat of a wait and see approach to this. Obviously, it is disheartening to see Orban thrust from power. He's been a hero of the right for many years, but the many years is in some ways the salient point. In any democratic regime, the shelf life of a given administration is about 15 years at the outside before voters just get bored and want something else. So I don't know how much to read the will of the Hungarian people into this one way or the other. And I don't know enough about Mr. Magyar to make any affirmative pronouncements that he is backed by the wrong people or not. The fact that all of our enemies are celebrating is just something you would expect to see with as notable a figure as Orban passing from power. But the substance of the new man, I am not prepared yet to judge.
I guess the one thing that I read that just jumped out at me was his ex-wife, Judith Varga, is a lawyer, and she was also Minister of Justice. Yeah, she was Minister of Justice from July 2019 till July 2023. And there was a gentleman who ran a state-run children's home and was molesting kids, and she did everything she could to, she worked to pardon him. And the only thing I could think is, can we get one leader of a country that is not somehow tangentially tied to pedophiles?
Let's not get greedy, Pete. We have Bukele.
Well, well, the exception that proves the rule. Thank you.
I didn't see that. It doesn't really surprise me, I guess. Like, I guess my default position is that if you have power, they have something like that on you. Either you were honeypotted into it, or you're just a creep by nature, or both. But that just seems to be like, that's just the way of the Western world right now, is that if you have any power at all, you're a pedophile, like child sacrifice freak. And I just assume that that's just the way it is.
Worldly power is in the gift of its prince.
I guess that guy on the right is who sent me that check. All right. Well, what is it? Yeah, I mean, we will see what the future holds for the Hungarian people. I don't have much more to say on this beyond I generally concur. This guy seems to be more radical than Orban, although that might very well be a front. So we will see. In other Eastern European derived news, the what is it? Third Slavic wife of Donald Trump, second. I lost count. Had a very strange press conference earlier this week, and I don't know if this is a picture or a video, but this was immediately before some leaks that occurred. But she came out seemingly out of nowhere, very insistently denying any ties that she had to one Jeffrey Epstein and his operation.
What could be more natural? In fact, I would like to take this opportunity to announce to the chat that I personally did not know Jeffrey Epstein and had no connections to him.
Yeah. Well,
That's
okay.
one
I
person.
was. When was this? This was like a few days ago.
I think it was at the end of last week, actually. I think it was like Thursday or Friday of last week.
So I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the news. I've been really busy, but was there, what prompted this? Was there a bunch of accusations that she was involved, or was it completely out of the blue?
Nothing prompted it, actually. It was as a matter of fact, it happened immediately before a bunch of leaks came out. Yeah.
And did the leaks implicate her in something?
Theoretically, yes.
Huh. Yeah, the whole Epstein thing is like really, I mean, obviously it's sketchy, but like I mean, this is like another one of those things, like these like political players, they are all caught up in all sorts of like, they all have dirt on each other. They all have like they all marry plants. Like they're controlled by all sorts of different pressure points, and their wives are a major part in that. The what's his name, Eric Swalwell or whatever. Like that's just like another example of this is just the way politics is run. But it's really interesting. Maybe we don't really know why yet, but something might be coming down the pipeline on this, and maybe it's related to the Iran situation. Maybe there's, Israel was very disappointed in, America. They felt like had, a less than, they wanted them to go full bore on Iran, and they didn't. They kind of did like a half-hearted thing. So maybe it's more pressure. Maybe they're just kind of threatening, and it could be related to geopolitics in that way. But I don't think it was random. I don't think it was very much a personal, protective initiative. I think it was much more had to do with, power politics and something going on geopolitically. That's my instinct.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that I was supposed to get a Diner Goth plant wife and I didn't?
You got to play the game to get the rewards.
Yeah, this Epstein thing it's a real thorn in the side of the administration, considering that's what one of the main things that Trump ran on, and then the backpedaling immediately started. And were we still talking about that Epstein creep? It's a Democrat hoax. And you had a podcaster who was working for the FBI, and he says, Epstein killed himself. And I mean, it's like, just release everything. I mean,
it's almost
the assumption is if you're not releasing everything, you're implicated. And why would you do that?
Well, why would you think he's not implicated? Like that just seems everyone in power is implicated. This is what they do.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it has to do with child sex or anything like that. I've said since, for a few years now, I think that someone like the guy Neil, the guy from LinkedIn, what the hell's his name?
Shenji.
No, LinkedIn is I can't remember what the guy's name is. Someone in the chat will mention it. This guy was like scared, completely frightened that Trump was going to get elected. And I don't think that has anything to do with like having sex with underage or younger or girls who may have been there against their will. I mean, people come back from that all the time, especially billionaires. And it's Reid Hoffman. That's who I was thinking of. Thanks, Volts Persona. I think it has more to do with what these guys did. And I think that once you really start getting into this, deep into these files, you are going to find out that treason is all over the place. And that's what people would be worried about, is because treason carries a hefty price. But apparently the administration probably wouldn't even bother to, if you found out somebody was trading secrets to another country, yada, yada, or everything. I mean, shit, we've gone to war for another country. I mean, at this point now, I don't even know if the Epstein files mean anything other than for the psyche of the public, so that they can, do what has historically been done with a certain group and, notice them and seek to detach from them.
Here's
Well,
my
the
question. Why do we think that, like, if I were these people, these files wouldn't even exist anymore? Like, why do they still exist? Wouldn't they have been deleted by now?
Well, you have some people who are so full of hubris that they think that they can use it against their enemies, and maybe they think that they can hide files or destroy files. I mean, I'm of the opinion that basically the first 6 months of this administration was destroying files of friends of the administration.
Yeah.
I mean, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, that's literally what I would do.
Mm-hmm. You mean they were destroying files of the Trump administration or the Biden administration?
Trump administration.
Okay.
Like people who have been implicated in the Trump administration. I mean, it's crazy that Lutnick one didn't get destroyed, but I mean, maybe they looked at that and they're like, oh, well, that can be easily explained away. Well, I don't think it can, because I can do math. So,
yeah.
Well, it's important to keep in mind, too, that the Epstein files, quote unquote, may just be something that's thrown around. I don't know if whatever they are, they may not actually be an actual set of papers contained within a filing cabinet somewhere. It's likely split across several hard drives in several different servers. If it's been digitized at all, which it probably has. I mean, given how part of this was admitted as evidence in his trial in Florida. So there is a paper trail somewhat there, but when the Epstein files gets thrown around, I guess what's expected is that there's like a dossier of documents that exists somewhere, when in reality it's probably a little bit more technologically sophisticated than that. One thing I will say though, go ahead.
Well, the Epstein files, as we refer to them, is a diffuse body of knowledge, and some of it will be in the possession of the United States government. A great deal of it will be in the possession of other governments and other actors. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt a universe of dirt out there held in many hands.
Yeah, precisely. I will say one further thing. This whole Epstein debacle, combined with the Iran war somewhat, but the Epstein debacle is, I suppose, what made it personal. For some reason, this hit critical mass. I don't understand why it did so recently, as opposed to the other 50,000 times Epstein has come up. But the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files, and I guess the release of it has at least parts of them has now, as compared to say even like 6 months ago, people at my place of employment are spouting off about the Jews. Guardsmen at drill are spouting off about the Jews. I am hearing people just completely random people all over the place spouting off about the Jews. And for someone such as myself, who's I'm not an old head, I wouldn't say, but I've been around since I'd say 2019, 2018 in earnest, right? And the way that they're talking would get you kicked out of the group chat for basically being a Spurg or being a Fed poster. And that's just how the average American is talking about, or not the average American, but a great many Americans are talking about this group of people now. And I don't know what it was about Epstein specifically, or Trump mixing with Epstein, that did this, but it has been done. And it's likely already reached critical mass.
No, I agree that it's reached critical mass. I mean, that's one thing that people don't understand about, like, elite theory. I believe in elite theory to a certain extent, but which means that, it doesn't really matter what the people want. The elites are going to do whatever they want. They just don't want a revolution. But I mean, when you look at the history, and especially if you look at the history in Russia, the people always recognize it. It's one thing that the people always recognize, is they recognize this group of people. because eventually they're like, okay, we're being victimized, we're being, we've been captured, we're occupied. Who did it? And inevitably, they're just so brazen about what they do that peasant, quote unquote, anti-Semitism becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And usually when that happens, their power is not very long for where they are, unless they do a Bolshevik revolution and just start killing everybody.
Yeah, I agree that it's reached critical mass, and this is kind of a permanent crisis, I think, because there's nowhere they can go to shore things up. Like, they're not going to go to the third world that's left. The right wing is no longer safe for them, whereas historically they've had like a evangelical Bible Belt base that's very quickly disappearing. So it seems to me that they're going to turn into panic mode, and I don't really see a way out of that. And that's why I was interested in the Israel connections in Hungary and what's going on there. But regardless of that, I think the pressure is going to heat up. I think everybody knows what's going on. It's no longer something that we have to keep to ourselves. I mean, I talk with a lot of college guys. I almost said something I shouldn't, but I know a lot of people in a dispersed way, and everybody has the same talking points right now. And there's nothing they can do to put the lid back on this. Like, there's no, like, what the elites need in order to keep people in line is they need myths, right? They need a basic architecture of narrative formation that they can use that basically establishes their power. It justifies the allies that we have in politics. And because that entire castle is crumbling down, I don't really know what they have left. And so I kind of see like there's no amount of censorship that's actually going to stop this train. And because even if, like, the censorship actually justifies the fears of the masses, right? And so I don't think that they can put this back into a bottle, and I don't know exactly where this goes, but I think it could get pretty nasty for a while, because the elites are so completely out of touch with what they want and who they're representing and who their allies are and who the actual powers are behind the scenes. And the population is not buying it. I think that's actually part of the justification for certain types of immigrants, like especially the Indian ones, because the Indian ones make a great client class, and they can replace that evangelical Zionist base. Like, the Indians are, cozying up really well to Israel. And so I think that is like a major reason why they want those types of people here, is because they need to replace this, conservative American base that's very quickly abandoning the old myths.
The good news, at least with the Indians, is that upon arriving here, their fertility tanks more than any other minority. The only problem is that there's no shortage of them to bring in.
Right.
So, but thankfully, it's something, as if it's cut off rather quickly, which God willing will be spared that judgment. Then it should be relatively quick to fix. Anything else on Melania's press conference and Mr. Epstein?
Just the observation that it's perfectly in keeping with the entire Epstein saga, and that it is absolutely bizarre. I mean, when you look back on it, Epstein is, part of the fixture of our world now. But he was doing the things he was doing in the open, and right-wing talk radio was screaming about it in 2012. He gets arrested, and a couple of days later, he, quote unquote, kills himself. The Trump administration runs on getting to the bottom of it, immediately reverses course, and what appears to be a massively botched psyop of some kind. And this is just more of the same. The whole thing is so bizarre. It's almost as if it's intentionally kept bizarre in order to mask the horrifying implications that lie underneath.
So, I think that's an interesting point, actually, because the history of the 20th century, at least of the post-war 20th century, is functionally creating a narrative reality entirely via psyop. There's a good book about this called Surveillance Valley. And California was actually the primary testing grounds for this. This is what all the serial killers, the serial killer mania in the, I think it was the 70s, because what this was using the science of cybernetics to functionally determine how a population would react to high stress situations that slowly dissolved social trust. Right. This is all basically the WASP establishment, the CIA, other bodies. This is what MK Ultra was also a part of. But for the past, half century plus, it has basically been one. And this was partially, This was partially due to the fact that you had WMDs. So the consequences of societal breakdown or societal instability or political conflicts were much more pronounced. Or though that may be the justification, you may not agree with that, but this is kind of the justification behind it. But over the last 75 years or so, since the 1950s, even the late 1940s, narrative reality, you could even say, oh, it was done during World War II as well. Yeah, sure. As long as mass media has been a thing, this has been something that has been attempted to be implemented. That said, a narrative reality via psyop has been constructed, and there used to be a great deal of competence in the constructing of these various psyops because they had to incorporate certain elements of what was really happening in order for them to be believable. Now, as Mr. Quinn said, they seem to be completely breaking down the understanding of human nature, the understanding of the particular idiosyncrasies of particular populations, also the open source internet, which is also being slowly closed. I don't think through censorship. I think the internet is actually being closed through the much more effective means of algorithmic capture. I believe is a much better way of ensuring that the internet ceases to be a source of open information, is through algorithmic curtailing and information echo chambers. So ultimately, that's what's happening here, is that these psyops, whatever they were, to cover up whatever they were trying to cover up, you insert the blank here, are breaking down because the people with the competency and the understanding of human nature and the stranglehold on sources of information has all been more or less blown away. But it's only a temporary circumstance because almost certainly a new consensus will be reached, and the new sources there will be ways that will be found to restrict the new sources of information. I know that was a long diatribe, but it's important to understand that. All right. So moving on, right, from talking to one Middle Eastern Semitic group to another, or rather not talking about them, one of our, I guess what's his relation to us? One of our I suppose greatly supported news figures recently released a tweet about Muslims, and it was in reaction to Donald Trump's frankly blasphemous photo that he used AI to make. He later deleted it, edited it, and reposted it, which I don't even understand. But you could read the tweet here. TLDR, wholesome Chungus Islam loves Christians, loves Christianity, and the elites don't want you to know this, et cetera, right? I'm sure there is a great deal to say on this. I will simply state my piece. I understand where Tucker is coming from with this. I understand why he said this. He picked a very foolish way to say it this way. If you are a Christian, you do not believe Jesus Christ was a good man. You do not believe Jesus Christ was a prophet. You do not believe Jesus Christ was a great teacher. You believe that Jesus Christ was the living Son of God, is the living Son of God, was born, lived, had his ministry, died, was resurrected, and will one day at the end of time come to judge the earth. That is what you believe if you are a Christian. If you do not believe that, that's, you can believe whatever you want. You are not a Christian, right? Muslims do not believe that. They venerate Jesus, or they say they do in a particular way, but that is not what they believe. So, and this has consequences to how they conduct themselves in the world. So I understand from a certain, not just geopolitical view, but from a certain, you could almost say cosmological view, talking about one particular Semitic desert tribe and all of the enemies of that desert tribe being used as an excuse to do the bidding of that desert tribe. You can let that run away with you. And you can get to the point where you start, I don't want to say aiding and abetting, but you start making excuses for groups of people that are also enemies of the United States, enemies of the American people, enemies of Christians. They are not the immediate enemy, and perhaps not even the most pressing enemy, or even a particularly threatening enemy. That said, you can go too far with this, and it can lead you into saying very foolish things. Tucker is an Episcopalian. I think he's still a part of the Episcopal Church. I was raised in the Episcopal Church. I left the Episcopal Church. I left the Episcopal Church because I had a female priest for 18 years of my life, and it killed my faith, and I went apostate. All right. And I thank God that I was saved from that. Right. But Tucker is coming at this with very squishy Episcopalian priors. All right. You can, if you want to go study the fundamentalist modernist controversy back in the 1920s to understand why the Episcopal Church is the way it is, you can go do that. Suffice it to say, I am not saying Tucker Carlson is not a Christian. I am not saying Tucker Carlson is not saved. I am not saying Tucker Carlson does not believe in Jesus Christ. I am not the judge of that. Based on what he says, I really earnestly think he does. The problem with this here is he is taking a very real objection to this particular Semitic desert tribe running our politics and using it to say foolish things. And I think this was just a massive mistake on his part. That is my piece.
So Christ said that you are for me or against me. And to take the position that Christ was a prophet or Christ was a teacher who had some good things that he said is to blaspheme Christ far more strongly than the atheist who says Christ didn't exist, or the certain religious persuasion who says that Christ is boiling in a vat of shit in Gehenna. Because Christ made a statement which admits of no equivocation. He said, I am the Son of God. Either that statement was true and he is therefore the Son of God, or that statement was false and he was a monstrously evil, deceiving villain, the greatest in history. And so to try and take this middle way, as Muhammad did, to say that Christ, he was a holy man, he was a prophet, is a blasphemy, which Christ himself precluded. It's a binary. You're for him or against him. And as we apply this to the political situation today, Aaron McIntyre made the very good point that we can be for ourselves. We can be pro-white. We can be pro-Christian. We are not required to take one side versus another in a conflict among infidels.
Really? Is this the same guy who says the side that wants to win will always beat the side that wants to be left alone?
It is.
Okay. If Judea is our enemy, who is on the front line fighting Judea right now?
Well, the Iranians at the moment.
And they're So because they're Muslims and because 9/11 happened, that's we just hope that they lose, and we
No, certainly
continue.
not. Quite the opposite.
I
We
mean,
hope that they win.
who controls the porn industry? Who controls the Hollywood? Who controls banking? Who controls who controls all this stuff?
The Jews.
Don't care. I don't care if the left in this country defeats the Jews. We cannot defeat. We have a bunch of other enemies beside the Jews, but the only reason we can't fight them is because the Jews are standing in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Until people realize who the Jews are, we can't deal with the Somalis in Minnesota. We can't deal with Mamdani in New York. The Jews are Jewish judges, the Jewish laws, all these laws that have been written by them, this whole financial system that was created by them. That has to be brought down. And the people who, I mean, we're sitting here on a live stream. There are anons on Twitter who think they're doing something by posting on Twitter. There are people actually over there trying to destroy Judea. I'm rooting for those guys. I'm not, and does it mean, it does mean more to me that they have a friendly, they have more of a positive view on Christ than Jews do. Because Muslims have, sure, wars of conquest, killed. I'm looking at recently, like the Bolshevik Revolution, which was the destruction of, they tried to kill Orthodox Christianity in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are Muslim countries over there that are run by Muslims that have huge Christian communities that are protected. They have huge Jewish communities that are protected. Obviously, those Jews there aren't the same as the Jews in Israel and the Jews that we have to deal with here.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to, I'm sorry. We are going to need allies in this fight, because right now, all we're doing is sitting on a live stream. They're over there doing whatever they can to destroy Judea. Those are good people.
So a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually a lot more Christians. I mean, you guys probably know this, but there's a lot more Christians in Iran than Israel. And I do agree that we need to be supporting those, or at least not declaring war on those who are pushing in a similar direction as where we want to go. I don't really understand the point of the tweet, though. I mean, I understand, maybe I do, but it seems way unnecessary.
The point of the tweet is to show that Jews hate Jesus Christ. This group over here doesn't hate Jesus Christ. They may have a blasphemous opinion of Jesus Christ, but they don't hate him. That's the point of the tweet. The point of the tweet is to point out that Judea hates Christ, hates everything, hates Christians. They are over there torturing Christians right now. They are killing Christians right now. Every fucking thing that they've done since they've gotten political power in the 20th century has been organized to kill Christians. They basically orchestrated the war in Russia and Ukraine so that Christian brothers can kill Christian brothers, and they're sitting back and they're laughing.
Yeah.
But I would.
It is. Here's the thing that's interesting to me. Like, how did Tucker think this would land? Like, in terms of building a coalition, a lot of people are focusing in on the fact that Christianity is under siege. Obviously, there's a Jewish aspect of that, but I don't know if people are ready to start thinking of Islam as a natural ally in this war. That's very much a hard view to get across to people that are waking up.
Natural. Here's the thing. Okay. If you take the stance that basically what it is it's the world, it's the resistance against globalism, which is basically Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
They're just on our side. If they're fighting against globalism, if they're fighting against Judaism, they're on our side by default. Now, does somebody have to go out of their way to get all cushy and oh, we just have to no. Muslims belong with Muslims, Jews belong with Jews, Christians belong with Christians. The biggest problem with this country is that it's a Christian country and we allow non-Christians to rule over us, to make our laws, to run our banking. Jews can do that over there with themselves. Muslims can do that in their own world by themselves. Who brought the Muslims here? I mean, who's responsible for Dearborn? Who's responsible for immigration? A Jewish coalition with, yes, Catholic charities, with Lutheran charities. Sure, they're all fucking traitors. Okay, but they're our natural allies because they're fighting. It's the same thing about Maduro. What was Maduro's problem? Okay, sure, he said he said, "Oh, I'm anti-white." Where did he get that from? Did he get that from Jews? Was it Jews who came up with that? Wait, what the fuck is going on? It is the resistance against globalism, which is Judea. Anyone who's against Judea and globalism is our natural ally, not because we want it, is because it just is. And we have to deal with that if we want to win. I see what I see is I see people care more about what some fucking anon on Twitter thinks of them is going to have an opinion. Oh, look, he's a third worldist. He's palling around with brown people. I don't give a fuck about anons on Twitter. I want these people destroyed. I want them out of our country. I don't want them to have any power in the country. And until people figure that shit out, we're not going to win. We're going to be stuck with these people ruling over us. We're going to be stuck with an Epstein network that's going to continue into your grandchildren's fucking lives. But I mean, let's worry about what fucking people who had to drop, who couldn't even sell books right, and they had to stop doing that, care about us. I don't give a fuck what these people think. These people want us arrested, and they want us to be like, have IDF soldiers be our jailers so that they can rape us and bring dogs in to rape us like they do to fucking Palestinians. Fuck these people. They are our enemy. Anybody who is supporting Judea is our fucking enemy. And if you're supporting what Donald Trump is doing right now, as far as this war goes, you're our enemy. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, it's okay. Here, let me just say it like this. Do you think Tucker Carlson is at a place where he's increasing his popularity and his message is hitting home in that direction, or are people interpreting this in the wrong way? Like, do you think he's actually, like, I think he gets a lot of what you just said, but I wonder if the right wing is ready for that explicit conversation.
I don't know that I care that the right wing is ready for that conversation. Tucker Carlson speaks to a different audience than listens to my podcast. Billionaires, millionaires, people who have actual power listen to Tucker Carlson. If Tucker Carlson is convincing them, that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, that was kind of my follow-up question, is like, in my opinion, he's saying these things because he's messaging to a certain group of people, right? Like, that's kind of the follow-up, is like, he knows that there are very specific people in places of power that read his stuff and they're influenced by him. And that's where the messaging is going to hit home the hardest. Is that kind of the case that you're making?
Yeah. I mean, like the people I'm messaging to are the people who are going to build their local communities and their state up. You know, when these people, they need to be doing, they need to be putting into place what comes next after this power is taken away. Tucker is speaking to the people. You know, we have different audiences. Sure, there might be some crossover. I mean, I listen to Tucker, and you know, I have my own show and everything, but the whole idea that Tucker is like, oh, Tucker, you know, anons on Twitter are upset. You know, people who can like quote from the painter's book are upset at Tucker because he doesn't go far enough. I don't think they understand exactly what he's doing. And I don't really care. That's why you barely see me on Twitter anymore. It's not, we're not going to solve anything on there. Politically, maybe we can organize our own, you know, our little groups and everything. You know, all of us, you know, in the OGC, you know, met online, and then we brought it into real life, and that should be the goal of it. But to think because you're going to chimp out on Twitter, you're going to change anything, well, maybe you will on some small thing, but when it comes to a war, obviously that's not going to happen. 80% of the American public was against bailing out the banks in 2008, and the banks got bailed out.
Yeah. So why is he taking the angle of like Islam is not the enemy of Christ? Is that,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in his head. I mean, yeah. I wouldn't do it that way.
I guess what I'm saying is this. I mean, this tweet really kind of like took me by surprise. The framing, you know. Yeah, I find it really fascinating.
I didn't know this tweet existed because I'm not on. I barely spend any time on Twitter. This tweet became a thing because people live on fucking Twitter, and I used to too. I don't do that anymore. I have shit to do in my regular life. We got fucking food to grow here.
Yeah, I would say, like, my instinct is, like, Tucker Carlson is very courageous for going down this path so explicitly. I mean, that's one of the things that stood out to me, too, is, like, I'm constantly surprised by how hard in the paint he's going on this. He always seemed like someone that was kind of aloof, but he's a lot more clever and courageous than, you know, you might think.
Man, one thing that we figured out is that Tucker Carlson listens to us. I mean, he doesn't listen to us, but his producers listen to us. It's obvious.
Right.
It's obvious, especially his newsletter. You know, so, but he can't say the thing. He can't be as bombastic as I am because it will turn off the kind of people that he has to communicate to, that he has to get through to. You know, I mean, that's why when people are like, oh, he just has to name them. He just has to. It's like, yeah, you stop. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand. You think that this is why, like, everybody think, like, I've met a bunch of people who think that the Republicans are going to sweep the midterms because they think that people are as ideological as them. No, people are going to vote with their wallets.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to stay home. So it's like, I mean, sorry, most people aren't ideological. Most people don't have they'll call themselves a conservative. I have no idea what that is. They'll call themselves a Republican. I have no idea what that is. They'll spout something about the history of how the country was structured, but obviously doesn't run that way anymore. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it. You know, it's like, you know, it's like what Cowboy Nomad is saying in Thing. Was Hitler a third worldist for making inroads in the Muslim world? It's like all these people are like, oh, 1488, you know, Austrian painter. Oh no, Islam bad. Okay, so maybe we should do a stream about all the things that Hitler got wrong. I guess the first thing would be siding with Dar al-Islam. Is that why he lost the war? I don't think that happened, but okay, sure. I don't get this. I mean, you can criticize Tucker's tweet all you want. Like I said, I'm not spending much time on Twitter, so whatever. But when it comes down to, oh, you can hate both sides. Really? You're going to hate the side that's fighting against your enemy? You're going to be like, oh yeah, I don't know. You know, I hope they both lose. What does that mean? First of all, that's impossible. Shut the fuck up. You sound retarded. Okay. But you have one, you talk about your enemy all the time, and there's a group out there that's fighting them. I mean, Hezbollah kicks ass. Sure, they get bombed, you know, cities are getting bombed. Hezbollah is kicking ass. What we're supposed to be anti-Hezbollah, they're fighting Judea. I mean, this is our enemy. Why would we be against that? Do you know the shirts and the skins? Do you know the difference between a Shia and a Sunni? Oh, they're both brown. I don't care. Then fuck you. You're not in the conversation. Oh, well, you can hate both sides. Well, you know, let me repeat the tweet again. The side that wants to win will always beat the side that just wants to be left alone. And when you're talking about how both sides, you know, oh, I hope both sides. That's what it sounds like to me. Sounds like you're invoking, oh, I just want to be left alone. I'm only for white people. Okay, then how are you fighting your enemy? Oh, you're not. Who is fighting your enemy? Oh, the brown people over there. Oh, yeah, so, yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that. Oh, but some people on the internet might get mad. I might get fired from my, my platform. Fuck that. Fuck that. That's why I'm independent. I say whatever the fuck I want. Charlemagne just said in the chat, if people hate Muslims so much, they should sign up for the IDF.
Next story is probably going to go over very well.
Unless I'm way less worked up about this one. This is just you know, post-war consensus stuff.
Well, I don't have much to say beyond what I said at the beginning. So, I mean, yes, Pete, I like I told you in private, I don't know. I just don't know if I believe in that view. I don't say I don't. I don't say if I do. I don't know. Perhaps I need to sit down and watch your whole 200 years together from beginning to end. To
I mean, the sad
make up my
reality is, and the reason I'm not as sanguine as Pete is on this paradigm of Zion versus the resistance, is that it is absolutely possible to have multiple enemies. And just because one group of people that hates you is more powerful than the other group of people that hates you doesn't mean that you forget both groups hate you.
I suppose it's the question of, as Yaki wrote in Imperium, it's the question of whether you want a jackboot or an insidious parasite.
Mm.
Or the threat of a jackboot versus the threat of an insidious parasite.
Well, here's the thing. Somalis are parasites. They basically parasitize us. Jews are the kind of parasite that take you over, attach themselves to you, take you over, and then control you. Social engineer you. And they're not seeking to destroy your body. They're seeking to destroy your soul. They're seeking to destroy everything that you want. That everything that's good about you. And that's what they've done to Christianity, you know, for the last 120 years, 125 years to Christians. So, yeah.
525 years, but that's the next story.
Well, yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, I guess we can follow this up by something even, even better, which is the fact that the Pope. Here we go. The Pope recently made the first ever official visit of any Pope to the state of Algeria, where he what is it? He blessed like martyrs or something. I don't know. Muslims. What did he do there? What was the thing he did that made everyone mad? Prayed for Muslims or something?
He said that Muslims were in communion with the Catholic Church.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into this. That's quite the statement.
I mean, the word communion is a very theological term, so that might be too powerful, but you can look up this.
Yeah, that would be quite the statement if that's what he said.
Yeah, but look it up. It was something like that.
Yeah, let me find his wording.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're certainly getting your money's worth tonight because you're getting your fair share of blood sports. Oh boy.
The church is living stones where communion between Christians and Muslims takes shape under the mantle of Our Lady. So no, this is not a statement that they're in communion with the Catholic Church. This, I imagine, is an expression of optimism that should Muslims ever come into communion, it will be under Our Lady's aegis.
So that word communion, was that he actually used that word?
He did use the word, it seems, yes.
So that's an interesting one because like there's a lot of Protestants that aren't in communion with the Catholic Church. So
Vatican kind of did away with that actually.
Okay.
Yeah. In communion in the Catholic context is very specific. For instance, the Catholic Church is in communion with the Maronite Christians of Lebanon. It's in communion with the Byzantine Catholics of Greece. There are various churches which are not the Roman Church, with which the Roman Church holds communion, meaning that Byzantines can go to Catholic Mass and receive communion. Maronites can go to Catholic Mass and receive communion, as opposed to, say, the Eastern Orthodox Church, which is not in communion with Rome. And so a Catholic, you can't go take communion at an Eastern Orthodox church, for instance. So I don't think Pope Leo was implying that Muslims were taking communion in the Catholic Church.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to further add to this that sharing the gospel is illegal in the country of Algeria. It is a criminal offense if you are caught doing so. So, I guess there's two ways of looking at this. You can look at the papal visit to Algeria as a hopeful sign that perhaps Algeria and the people there are interested and willing to perhaps accept the faith of Jesus Christ, and they are welcoming the emissary of that church there, or perhaps it could be viewed as a slap in the face to believing Christians who were martyred in Algeria. I don't know if there are any Christian martyrs in Algeria. I'm sure there are some spreading the faith.
Well, there's precedent for this, which is communist Poland, where it was illegal to spread the gospel. Nevertheless, Pope John Paul II went there, and that was one of the precipitating factors in the fall of the Iron Curtain.
Well, we could further use this to talk about the ongoing dispute between the Pope and the Vance administration. I don't want to. I don't. That's yeah. Anyway, Freudian slip. I I don't want to misrepresent anything the Pope has been saying, but from what I understand, that the Pope has been speaking out against mass deportations, very much speaking out against.
The Pope is a Chicago shitlib.
Okay, thank you for saying that. No, so yeah, basically the Pope is libtarded. The first American Pope is, of course, a libtard. And I suppose that by virtue of him being a libtard, it is assumed he went to Algeria for libtard reasons and not necessarily Catholic reasons, or perhaps Catholic libtard reasons and not necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is entirely possible and seems likely.
Maybe him personally wants to say that Muslims are in communion with the Catholic Church,
and yet he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing of this is it's like,
well, you bringing up a J.D. Vance administration is an interesting spin on all of this, because J.D. Vance is, of course, a Catholic, and the Pope is his Pope, his supreme bishop, and it raises the question of, what kind of influence does the Pope influence on a Catholic politician, on a Catholic president? The answer historically has been lamentably little. This was a big deal during the Kennedy administration. Obviously, you have all these Democrat politicians voting for 60 years in favor of abortion in contravention of the Catholic Church's teachings. So, to the extent an American is now Pope, does that increase the subversive influence of Rome in the opinion of my Protestant brethren?
Taken the other way around, right? I don't know if the Pope has renounced his American citizenship, but if he still has it, at what extent could publicly opposing the President of the United States as an American citizen still theoretically, possibly, on the part of the Pope, how could that be interpreted as far as treason goes?
Well, the Pope is a sovereign. So can a sovereign hold any citizenship other than his own?
Yeah, I suppose that's a question, right? I mean, if the Pope officially renounced his U.S. citizenship as a part of taking the office that he takes, I mean, he can't. I believe the Pope is considered a title of nobility under the U.S. Constitution, which prohibits such. So he would be in violation of that if he if he is still a U.S. citizen. Good luck getting anyone to convict that, though. But legally speaking, under the Constitution, that would be a federal crime, or it wouldn't be recognized.
Well, no, citizens can hold titles of nobility. The U.S. government cannot grant titles of nobility, is how that works.
No, I think
you can
I
mail
looked this
order
up
a lordship from the Bahamas.
No, I looked this up once. I'm pretty sure it was you can't hold any, nor can you nor does the government recognize them. Because I
Isn't the
know.
bigger question as to whether he's a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan?
He's a White Sox fan. Everyone knows this.
Oh.
His brother claims as much. His brother was apparently a MAGA boomer con in Florida. But I mean, shoot, I didn't expect for 13th and 14th century politics to come creeping back into my 21st century politics, but here we are. This is if you're familiar at all with medieval history, and particularly the relationship between the Holy Roman Empire and the Holy Roman Emperor and the Pope, you'll find that whenever you do have a Catholic head of state, which and this also raises questions, because these questions were brought up at the time in the Middle Ages, is, well, what exactly is the Pope? Is the Pope the ultimate spiritual authority over all Christendom? If so, why does he then have a secular state that collects taxes and has physical armies like another secular state? This was discussed in the 13th century as well as today. Obviously, there we go. We've got proof. Sorry, Pete. Obviously, today, the Vatican is a very small, tiny little, square mile. In the past, it is in the past, it has stretched for pretty much the entirety of central Italy, right? So what place does he have? I mean, this is a question that really only Catholics have to struggle with. If you're a Protestant as myself, you reject the authority of the Pope as a matter of course. The same thing with the Eastern Orthodoxes and other traditions, right? But as Mr. Quinn says, for a Catholic head of state, particularly a Catholic head of state pursuing a policy which he believes, and perhaps even many in his nation believe, is the best policy for his own nation, and the Pope believes that is not the best policy, and that's actually a sinful or a very harmful policy. What do you do from there? Are we going to go back to anti-popes? Are we going to go back to you can bring the Pope to Avignon whenever you want to? Is that what we're going to do?
So the last time that a pope said something that Catholics have to listen to, if you're a Catholic, you must believe, you must obey. This is what's called an ex cathedra pronouncement. It's when the Pope speaks as the head of the church to the entire church on a subject of faith and morals under the animation of the Holy Spirit. The last time that happened was 1950. The last time that happened before that was 1858. So unless J.D. Vance is going to start denying the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception or something, it doesn't really come into play. If the Pope personally doesn't like the policies of a leader, he could, I guess, try excommunicating him and provoke that fight. But as a matter of Catholic dogma, very, very rarely does the Pope have anything to say that is of relevance to a Catholic head of state.
What was said in 1950? I'm curious.
The Pope proclaimed that the Virgin Mary was bodily assumed into heaven without dying.
Understood.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people think that basically every time the Pope gives an opinion, that Catholics are just waiting with bated breath to hear it so that they can adopt it. And I think that at this point, especially after Vatican II, most people are waiting to hear the Pope speak ex cathedra, which, like Jerry said, has only happened twice in the last 200 years. Otherwise, it's like, okay, that's nice. I'll take it into consideration and forget it in 5 minutes. Not to be disrespectful, but it's just that's the way it is.
When the Pope speaks not ex cathedra, he's speaking as a man, and as a man, you can agree with him or disagree with him.
I mean, I know that upsets like redeemed, or like not redeemed, but like reformed guy, whatever, on Twitter. And Disclosed TV definitely gets pissed off about the Pope saying shit Libby stuff, but most Catholics aren't even really taking it under consideration.
Which, to steer this kind of into the vein of the previous topic of picking sides, Catholics and Protestants absolutely have to be on the same side vis-a-vis Judea, vis-a-vis our enemies. We do not have time to revisit the religious wars. We do not have anywhere near the level of Schmittian opposition, which would make such a thing desirable or even possible. We all have the same enemies. And the real message we need to take is avoid debate on Twitter. Don't engage in interreligious flame wars. We have far, far, far more in common under Jesus Christ than we do with the forces which hate Jesus Christ. And my principal reason for coming on today was to deliver that admonition: no more religious flame wars between Christians.
Yeah, it's really just another version of yelling at people for saying something nice about the Muslims who are fighting Judea right now. It's just being schismatic. I mean, I have friends that are Orthodox, and we sit down and we talk, and we're like, yeah, we just got to put this aside because we got one enemy. And we can deal with this. I was talking to a chapter president of the OGC, and he said, yeah, the Protestant Catholic thing, we can deal with that in 100 years after we defeat our enemy. We can talk about that in 100 years, but we got an enemy to defeat. And arguing about this now is really just, going back to, arguing over how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
It's shocking to me that people get caught up in this, like on the right wing, like between Catholics and Protestants. I can't even barely summon the energy to even say that, because it doesn't matter to me at all.
What's funny is people don't attack Mormons. I've noticed that. People don't attack Mormons.
Because a lot of them are FBI agents, and
yeah, exactly. Because this is the thing. This is why, what is it? Anyone who's like, oh, I'm racist against the Irish, or I'm racist against the Italians. Well, that's actually meaningless completely, because it actually costs you nothing to be racist against the Irish and the Italians, because they, number one, don't really exist as discrete ethnic groups, or if they do, in increasingly smaller and smaller numbers and geographical areas in the United States. Number two, they don't care. They're not going to come and they might, call you an idiot on the internet, but that's all they're going to do. If you go after, say, Mormons, they have a network that's pretty much entirely dedicated to making you not do that. If you go after, shoot, Pete already pretty much blew the door open. You go after Jews, in a very apparent and public, like, aggressive way, that's going to get shut down rather quickly. If you go after Muslims, one of them might just come and kill you, because that's just how they are, particularly if you live in an area near them. But if you're a Protestant who goes after Catholics, or you're a Catholic who goes after Protestants, it's not really going to harm you very much, because neither of you are going to go out and do anything to the other. This isn't like, what is it? This is not in the 30 Years' War, right? If you want a master show of, if you want a master display of the utterly horrific things that those made in the image of God can do to each other, go read about the 30 Years' War. In the 30 Years' War, read about the sack of Magdeburg. If you just read about one instance of the 30 Years' War, read about the sack of Magdeburg. That is what it meant to be a Protestant or a Catholic in the 30 Years' War. If you read about the sack of Magdeburg, all right, it was, as they say, on site, right? You would be killed, or you would be dispossessed, or your church would be burned, your community would be burned. And yeah, sure, you can say, oh, it was for, I'm sure there was some, greed or power hunger, but for the most part, a lot of people, at the very least on the surface level, believed in the Catholic versus Protestant nature of the 30 Years' War. And what was the conclusion of the 30 Years' War? Inconclusive. White peace. What's it? What's the Latin phrase? Status quo antebellum, right? And functionally, Christendom came to an end because his faith, his religion, his realm, right? That's really what ended. And my crackpot theory is that the Middle Ages didn't end until 1648. But ultimately, that's what it meant. In today's day and age, it just means friggin', you call someone a papist, or if you're a Catholic, you go find a Protestant, you go find a Presbyterian and say that he goes to Billy Bob's strip mall church. Or if you, and post Vatican II, the church doesn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, what is it? But the church doesn't even deny the salvation of Protestants anymore. Right? I think it used to prior to Vatican II. Catholics, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sort of.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Right. So
I mean, but the Pope's not gonna do that. Your priest isn't gonna do that. I mean, you may find a priest, but that's gonna be the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
yeah, so this is the point I'm trying to make, right? Is it's like ultimately, you know, we both sides of this divide, you know, the Catholics and the Protestants are the two halves of the Western Church, you could say, right? Sundered 500 years ago, right? Whatever your view as to that, sundered 500 years ago, right? However, they are closer to each other.
Orthodox bros screaming in the chat right now.
Look, I'm sorry, they're not. It's not the Western Church. If you're Orthodox, that's fine. You're not the Western Church. You are the Greek Church. You're the Slavic Church. That's what you are traditionally, right? I understand that there's a movement. I'm not trying to be too inflammatory, but the Catholics and the Protestants are the Western Church. They're the two halves of the Western Church. If we put polemic aside, what pretty much all of us believe, at least what I believe, I'm not going to speak for others. You know, I believe every Catholic in the OGC that I've met and that I've spoken to is saved by Jesus Christ and is going into salvation. I believe that. I don't expect them to believe the same, but if they do, I'm very grateful for it. That said, right?
So, since you gave your opinion, I'll give you the actual position on this, which is that there is no salvation outside the Catholic Church, but our Protestant brethren are just Catholics who don't know it.
Yeah. So you see, wonderful. You can just declare we're all Catholics with the stroke of a pen. It's I guess that's what we call the invisible church.
You know, I walk a fine line. I mean, went to a Protestant seminary. I've studied Luther. I've studied Calvin, and I'm married to a Baptist. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right? And there's all kinds of, there's been 50,000 arguments that have been made. It's like, oh, isn't it funny that all of the Catholics are the Latins and all of the Protestants are the Germanics and you know, and I don't want to reduce it to necessarily an ethnic attribute. That said, right? Clearly clearly, so long as this divide exists, it will continue to be relevant. That said, to kind of
This
put
is
a
the thing.
capstone. Go ahead.
And this is just my personal opinion. This isn't any representation of Catholic doctrine, but I believe the Catholic doctrine is true and correct, and it's the true church, but I also don't believe in salvation by guessing correctly.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair enough. Yeah, I concur. So to kind of put a capstone on this, right? I fully concur. The enemies of the Western Church lie outside the Western Church. What is it? And we can include the Orthodox here because they're your enemies too. You guys were just, I suppose, the first to bite that bullet about 100 years ago, and perhaps now those chickens are coming home to roost here. But the Christian churches, right? And the Catholics and Protestants, especially the Western Church, if they are divided against each other, then one half and then the other will be gobbled up by those forces that are outside of it that seek to destroy it. And
correct.
With a place as geographically secure as the United States, the only way that can be done is through the infiltration and taking over of the ruling elite, and then the importation of those groups through completely legal means to these shores to ensure that the ocean barrier is eliminated. So,
Here.
Yes. All right. Now that we've gotten the sectarianism out the way, if we want to. There's one last thing that we're going to talk about, and I think
cleanser.
Well, it's unfortunately it's not a very big palate cleanser because we're going to talk about the desolation of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are paying attention, and we've talked about this in previous OGC streams, Abigail Spanberger was elected as governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia last year, I want to say. Yes, perfect. She always looks like that. Like every photo that is taken of her, she always looks like that. She is, in case you were wondering, no, she is not Jewish by birth. Her maiden name is in fact Davis, and she married a gentleman with the surname of Spanberger, and so you can see.
I'm going to need an account of that proboscis then.
Yeah, well. But what she has done recently, beyond, and there's a big thing that we're gonna talk about because there's a call to action at the end of this. But today she signed a bill which stripped tax-exempt status from all Confederate heritage organizations, particularly the Sons of Confederate Veterans and the United Daughters of the Confederacy within the Commonwealth of Virginia. What this is basically going to do is it's meant to utterly bankrupt the organizations to ensure that they can no longer operate within the borders of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, these organizations are very well-established legacy organizations that do have a good deal of cash. That said, if Mr. Quinn, you're the lawyer here, but if tax-exempt status is taken away, does that make it easier to sue them?
Are you muted, Mr. Quinn?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the chat. What did you say?
My question is, right, does stripping an organization of its tax-exempt status make it easier to sue the crap out of them?
No, you can sue the crap out of a tax-exempt organization as easily as you can a non-tax-exempt organization.
Well, suffice it to say, this is a significant damage to the scant remnants of Confederate heritage within the Commonwealth of Virginia, which I think has been the worst hit of all of the former Confederate states in terms of its damning in memory, which I still pray that the remnant that exists in Virginia will preserve it. But it's not looking very good. Further, she has passed, I think, a high capacity magazine ban. She's attempting to pass an assault rifle ban, which is not going to go over well with about 50% of the state. Because for those of you who don't know, Virginia is basically one big veteran retirement home. The whole state is nothing but former law enforcement, soldiers, special forces. It's where they all go to retire.
Just before we move past the Confederate bill,
Sure.
Let us not delude ourselves that Abigail Spanberger is mad about the Civil War. The Confederate figures were rehabilitated, and our two halves of our severed national polity were reconciled for a reason. It was to heal the wound that the Civil War left in the body politic. And now the undoing of that rehabilitation, this damnation in memory, is done as an attack upon that same body politic. Doing away with Confederate monuments, stripping Confederate organizations of tax-exempt status. This is not an attack upon the Confederacy. It is not an attack upon the South. It is an attack upon America at a vulnerable and sorely wounded point. They are very deliberate about this, and everyone should understand where this is coming from and where it's going.
No, precisely. I've made this point several times. It's not even necessarily Southern culture that is being attacked. It's not the barbecue. It's not the country music. They love the country music. They put a black guy up there, and make him into a country music star. He's a country music singer, but he's black. It's not the cowboy hats. It's not the cowboy boots. It's not any of that. That is not what is under attack. It's not they don't care about Sunday dinner, and they don't care about the biscuit. They don't care about that. That's not what they care about, at least at this immediate juncture. What they care about is those 4 years, right, and the subsequent reconciliation. But the reason that they attack the Confederate symbols is because, number one, there's kind of a question marks around it, but number two, they represent the most explicit Christian white supremacist face of the United States in living memory, right? And that's able to be publicly celebrated. And if that is basically totally removed, where you can no longer, even say anything positive about the Confederates, further, while they're on the other hand finding ways to divorce Southern culture and Southern heritage from the Confederacy, so that even Southerners feel comfortable condemning the Confederacy while retaining that Southern identity. And this is why the SEC football and all this other stuff gets boosted, because it's this kind of like sleight of hand. It's a inferior product. Anyway, that's besides the point. That's what is happening here, right? And thankfully, Spanberger is doing it in a obvious and apparent way that that no one can deny. So. Anyway, yes. So go ahead, Pete.
I think it goes back to whenever I think about her and see what's happening, I go back to an episode that Jay Burden and Stormy did called talking about the GOP Samson option, where they theorized that because young people and people who are interested in getting into politics were noticers and noticed international Jewry and organized Jewry, they had to they have to seek to destroy the one political mechanism they could use, which is the GOP. And they pointed to Virginia as maybe not a first test case, but like a perfect test case of, let's put up this Jamaican or whatever the hell she was, black woman who goes to some hyper Zionist church, and it just someone is not going to win. And you put her up against Spanberger, and Spanberger runs she ran as a moderate basically, and this looks like the beginning of what we may see in other states. And the great fear is that Texas is obviously the next one, considering how many Indians and foreigners they are importing into Texas. And it's kind of hard to look at what's happening. And, organized Jewry doesn't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat, as long as they get to be in charge. So, you see them move from Republican to Democrat, left to right all the time. And that's all once I heard that fleshed out, I'm expecting to see what's happening in Virginia happen to other states. And, Virginia is, as far as I'm concerned, my reading of history, the high culture of the United States was Virginia. And it's painful to see what's happening right now.
So I suppose finally on this topic, for any and all of you who live in Virginia, you might have heard of this, but there is currently an attempted referendum to redraw Virginia's congressional districts such that it would be, I think, like 12-1, 11-1, 13-1. What is it? Where functionally the Democrats just California, Virginia, and the cradle of American civilization and the center of American high culture is functionally in the hands of these people forever. And expect to see like Mount Vernon bulldozed or things like that. Like it would just be gone. It's gone. And it will become a proverb amongst future generations, the way California, which was once a very prosperous place and place everyone wanted to go, has become now. So for any of you who live in the Commonwealth, I unfortunately do not at this present time, which deeply grieves me, but that's not how the circumstances of my life have worked out. But for any of you who still live in the Commonwealth, and you have the chance to go out and vote, please just vote no on everything. Vote no down the ballot on everything. It's not just this referendum that's being voted on. Vote no on everything, to prevent the home of Washington and of Lee and of Thomas Jefferson and of James Madison and of James Monroe and of John Marshall and of all of the other greats that you can think of that came from Virginia, to prevent it, at least in as much as, or at least slow down this attempt to destroy it, to get rid of it. And if you know someone in the Commonwealth, tell them to vote no on April 21st.
To add insult to injury, the current lieutenant governor of Virginia is a G.
Yeah. And we don't have time to talk about the former lieutenant governor of Virginia right now. But yeah, that has some question marks over it. But please, this is Paul asking you. This is not official OGC policy, but please vote against this if you live in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Do not allow for this to happen if you can.
Didn't she just successfully change the rule so that the electoral votes would go to whoever wins the popular vote? Like, did you guys see that?
Yeah, I think that's going to get struck down by the Supreme Court, because I think that violates the Virginia Constitution. So this is another hope, right? That the various district judges in Virginia and the Virginia Supreme Court will strike down some of these things. Mm-hmm. Whether that actually happens is another matter, but that's the hope. But yes, yeah, she's entered Virginia into the National Popular Vote Compact or whatever, mm-hmm. And this is all extremely flimsy and extremely dubious at best. But it doesn't matter, because she said they're doing it, and the media is confirming that they did it, and now it's in the minds of everyone. It might as well be fact.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So. The hope is, the longstanding hope is not the longstanding. The hope is that, despite all of this, this is actually kind of best case scenario for Virginia right now. Because Spanberger is doing so much so quickly in such a blatant fashion that it is pissing off the hillbillies in the West. Virginia is about 50. It's of any state in the United States, it is the closest to 50-50. And the evangelical chuds, Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson both founded their colleges in Virginia. Their evangelical colleges in Virginia. So it's important for religious reasons too. One of the centers of American Christianity is Virginia. Which is strange to say, but true if you think about it. What is it? So ultimately, the hope is that in 2029, Spanberger has done so much to piss off the western half of the state, all of the hillbillies up in the hills who will march down and will vote if they are pissed off. And a hardcore Republican, the VA GOP gets long knifed by the nationalist elements of it that are being shut out, and they put forward, someone like Glenn Sturdivant, hopefully, who will run and will hopefully win in 2029, and then he then staffs the government with a hardcore group of whatever you want to call them, to start reversing all of these things. Right. That's the hope. That's the hope to save Virginia. And if it can't happen in Virginia, which is the cradle of American civilization, the closest knife's edge 50-50, if this kind of political reform, if this kind of resistance and overthrow of this cultural revolution that's currently occurring in Virginia, if this cannot be stopped in Virginia, I don't know if it can be stopped anywhere, frankly. I know I've been talking a lot.
So So my take on all this is essentially that conservatives, like right wingers, need to really digest the fact that like the whole myth of the 20th century is over and that liberal democracy is dying, and things like this, which basically undermine the claims of neutrality, the political process, and legal objectivity, all that stuff we were raised to believe about America doesn't actually exist, and things like this really like make that very obvious. And so it allows people, it gives them the freedom to take extraordinary political action. So I think all of these things, from the Confederate, nonprofit status to massive unilateral changes to the electoral rules, all this stuff basically gives the right wing permission, and so that they can abandon like the guilt complex about challenging the myths of American jurisprudence. I think that these things are actually useful because it allows us to get back to real politics, which is like the friend enemy distinction and all of that. So while these are very dangerous situations, they can be used if we handle them well. Because I think the four of us agree, and probably a lot of listeners agree, that what the American right needs to do is stop getting so hung up on like constitutional pieties and start really thinking in terms of politics. And when the enemy makes itself clear, it almost gives us permission to do things in extraordinary ways.
All right. Do we have anything else before we roll into super chats?
Roll on.
All right. Once again, thank you all for super chatting. We're very, very grateful. Let's see what we got. Solid Snake 1964, being the first to sneak behind enemy lines as per usual for $5. He says, "Evening, gents. Hope you all are doing well. Going to hang out with the boys for some R&R this weekend. If any of you haven't joined the OGC yet, get your butt over to the website to apply. Then you too can enjoy a beer with like-minded guys." Complete agreement. Thank you, Solid Snake. For any of you who want to get involved with the OGC, go to our website, and we more than likely have a chapter near you. And if we don't, you and 4 other people can make one, and we will help you with that. But thank you, Solid Snake.
Real Americans.
Burke. So true. Christopher Burks, 458. Fear God, love the brotherhood, join the OGC, salute. I completely
Real
agree.
Americans.
Thank you.
Salute.
Thank you. Salute, indeed. Pete Budapest for $10. I've said it for a long time. Hungary became for the right in the last decade what Sweden was for the left in the 90s/2000s. A contrived alternative model that was a false idol. That's an interesting point. I guess the Hungary conversation got kind of buried as the stream went on, but I suppose that's an interesting point. Hungary existed in a very particular circumstance, but I suppose if Pete Budapest is being taken seriously, it's a contrived alternative model that probably wouldn't have survived. Zenrath, president of the Bluestone Heritage League, for $25. He says, "Abby, Virginia's AOC Spanberger should be a perpetual reminder that your adversaries must never be allowed to dictate direction. She will always sell her voter for political clout every single time." Yeah, I agree, but I think this goes a little bit further. I find her attitude to be one of just pathological hatred towards white people and the civilizations they create, and a desire to utterly erase them. Is what I see this as.
Yeah, I mean, I love Zenrath, and I hate to disagree, but calling her AOC is really, it's not realizing that. I mean, she is CIA, she is cunning, she is very smart. These are things that you're not going to call AOC.
Yeah, I suppose that's the case. Regardless, Zenrath,
Violently suppressing things I could call AOC, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't think she doesn't have a couple assets that everybody that people notice on
Yes,
AOC.
that's what I was restraining myself from saying. Yes.
So When did that come onto the soundboard? Anyway.
This is the first instance of us being horny on stream. What can I say?
Well, shoot, that means we've got some remarkable self-control. Regardless, we are grateful, Zenrath. Thank you. Ski Bum 220 for $30 US. Evening, everyone. Hope everyone has a great Easter with their families. Salute the OHC. Which
real Americans.
He might have mistyped. He might have mistyped because G is right next to H. But I'm also trying to think of which one of our chapters has OHC as a acronym. Whatever. Well, we're very grateful for you, Ski Bum. Thank you very much. Bolero 393 for $2. 2 blasphemies don't make a right. I agree with this. I think everything that has been said on this topic has been said. We don't need to reopen that. Unless we want to have another 45-minute diatribe, we can go and do that too.
My voice is shot.
I am too excited to hear what City Break Dancerman has to say.
Yeah. City Break Dancer Man for $5 sends a salute. Thank you very much, City Break Dancer Man.
Very anticlimactic, but thank you all the same.
Real Americans.
At Bolero 393 for another $2 says Anti-Pope Leo the 14th. I mean, it would certainly be interesting. What was the time when there was the largest number of anti-popes? I think it was like 4 at any one time. There was the one in Rome, the one in Avignon, the one in Savoy, and I think the one in there was I think 4. I don't know where the 4th one was. But if we really are returning to medieval politics, then the increasing political relevance of the Pope will be, I guess, part of that.
I mean, anti-popes didn't stop being a thing. Famously, I think it was last year or the year before, Pope Michael, one of the current anti-popes, recanted his papacy right before he died.
I didn't even know there were anti-popes. I thought y'all kind of figured that out at the close of the wasn't the 14th century. When was it? When did y'all figure that out?
Oh, there's always some butthurt little subsect that sets itself up its own pope occasionally.
I guess the big deal one was taken care of in the 1400s.
Indeed.
All right. Seasider01 for $10. He sends a salute. Thank you, sir.
Real Americans.
So true. Buckthorn Bear for $20 says, thanks, bros. Well, thank you, Buckthorn Bear. We're very grateful for you. Enrico Palazzos for $10. He says, free the Holy Land. That might actually be a pretty effective call.
That's good framing.
Yeah. Bolero 393 for $5. If the U.S. government files to strip Leo the 14th of U.S. citizenship, they should definitely file in Utah. I don't quite get the joke.
I don't imagine the jury pool in Utah is particularly pro-Catholic.
Yeah. I suppose that's the joke. Thank you, Bolero. Imagine my lack of shekel for $15. Well, I guess I can't imagine, or I guess I have to imagine your lack of shekel because you've just given us $15. He says, the day Randy Fine beats Dan Bilzerian in the octagon is the day I convert to Judeo-Christianity.
Huh.
Well, be careful what you wish for. At Bolero 393 for thank you, sir. At Bolero 393 for $5, he says, here's to hoping that we win so much that we can go back to argue about Christian theology and having strife between European ethnics in America.
Your lips to God's ears.
I've heard this before. I've heard this kind of thing and I guess it would be the marker of an improved situation is that these would be the primary issues. But I mean, I don't know. I kind of just want to keep moving forward. The ethnics are going to melt into America in some way, shape, or form, or they're going to melt away, period. The Christian theology is going, if the church fathers argued about it, it's going to be argued about until, if it was argued about in the book of Acts, it's going to be argued about. If it was argued about in the epistles, it's going to be argued about until the eschaton. But that said, it's my hope that we move on to perhaps novel culture forms and novel ideas, rather than just, existing in this stuck culture where the best we can do is reimagine some future version of the 19th century.
Indeed.
Oh, yep. And here we are. Here I talked about them, and they sent one of their agents, Thomas Wayne Riley, for $5. Says Joseph Smith sends his regards. Great stream. Y'all looking forward to June. Salute.
Real Americans.
Just as a side note, Thomas Wayne Riley has the most pleasing accent I have ever heard. I could just listen to that man for hours.
Yeah, you can listen to him for hours. He has his own podcast on the Southwest.
So he does.
Yeah, I don't know the link to it, but I'm sure if you look him up, you can find it, and I'm sure he can post it in the chat if he's still listening. Yeah, he's also president of the regulators of the Rio Grande, our New Mexico chapter. So if you are interested in getting involved with the OGC in New Mexico, please reach out to him or one of the other fellas down there. And finally, Bolero 393 for $5. The Patriot Act eliminated our privacy and brought enough bureaucrats and foreign lobbyists into Virginia to destroy the cradle of our ethnos. I agree with this. Fortunately, though, it's highly geographically limited to a couple of counties. It's limited to Fairfax and Loudoun and Prince William and the independent cities of Arlington and Alexandria. And really, if that was pushed back slightly, and this is part of the reason why I support destroying Imperial DC, and one of the things I wish the Trump administration would do is move all of the federal agencies to various different cities so that they're not all concentrated in one place. Because this would
indeed has begun with the Forestry Service.
Yeah, because this would destroy the Nova economy, which I would love, because it would free my state from, or my home commonwealth from slavery, to this group, to this city,
from the tyranny of people shooting Johnny Walker Blue Label.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I bartended in Arlington once, right?
To tell.
Yeah, I was a bartender in Arlington, where all of the frigging, World Bank and IMF and, the people at the Pentagon and everything else would come by to this bar. And, you can imagine it's a menagerie of all kinds of different ethnoi. And one time, this one party came in, and I'm sure his ringleader was a Jew or whatever, but they ordered Casa Azul for 7 people. And you know how much Casa Azul costs per shot at this bar? $80.
I don't.
$80 a shot. So, and they ordered not 1, but 2 rounds between 7 people. And that is when I learned the amount of money that people have in those couple of counties. And I utterly despise everything about this. And I want the Nova government contracting economy to be destroyed, because then Virginia can actually have a serious political economy again. But
isn't Casa Azul like $65 a bottle?
I don't know.
Isn't Casa Azul like $65 a bottle?
I don't know. All I know is that when I went to charge them, it said $80 a shot. So
that's just absolutely retarded.
I don't know. Look, Yeah, that might be the worst part about all of this. Anyway, Thomas Wayne Riley for another fight. You see, I talk and people send in more money. Thomas Wayne Riley for $5 US. Thank you, gentlemen. TheAmericanSouthwest.com. That is the website of Mr. Riley's podcast. If you want to listen to his voice for hours, he talks a lot about the obviously the American Southwest. So go check him out over there. And then finally, Joshua Bibby, 1941, for $2. Relocate the capital to Mound, Illinois.
Seconded.
I don't want anything in Illinois to represent the United States. So I must disagree. All right. I think that concludes us on our super chats. So we will, of course, go around the room. Mr. Pete, do you have anything to shill, sir?
I'm looking at this tweet that says a Marine veteran converted and now is a member of the tribe, and it's a black guy. Does that mean he's 3/5 a Jew?
Under the original interpretation.
No, just go check out the Pete Quinones show. Thank you.
Mr. Quinn, do you have anything to promote, sir?
American Spirits, the Old Glory Club's history and doctrinal show that every member should be watching Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central.
Wonderful. Yeah, Mr. Bagby has been hosting those, and I think those are his wealth of knowledge is invaluable. So go check that out. And finally, Mr. CJ Engel, do you have anything to shill, sir?
Well, unlike Pete, I am on Twitter a lot. At Contra Mordor. That's where you can get all of my moderate takes. And then I have a show with Andrew Isker, Contra Mundum. So that's on YouTube. But Twitter is probably the best place to follow me.
So is the show with Isker where the immoderate takes are?
Oh no, we're always moderate. We have big spotlights on us, so we behave ourselves mostly, but we still get in trouble.
They made the mistake of having me on once, and that resulted in
it's over.
The Stormy, Andrew had Stormy on, and that one actually got us in a lot of trouble. But it's fun. You guys are all good people. We support you all.
Mm-hmm.
As we do you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And we are very grateful for you coming on and being a guest, and we hope you come back again at some point.
You got it.
All right. And thank you all for listening. Thank you all for super. Oh, we got one more super before we finish it. Bolero 393 for $5.
What is that? Like his sixth one?
I guess so. Thank you, Bolero 393. If we had gold, we'd give it to you for persistence. I don't think we have gold because of copyright. For $5, would just want that Nova economy working for our guys, not bad money, just the wrong people receiving it. Okay, no. I agree with your sentiment. No, I hate palace economies. Palace economies are the worst. They retard any sort of actual economic growth within the United States. All right, any real wealth is commodities based. It is based on lumber. It's based on minerals. It's based on agricultural products. It is based on finished goods. It's based on manufacturing. It is not based on government contracts and graft. The only reason Nova is as rich as it is because it is at the head of a global empire that has been at war for the past 20 years. I don't think this is the right way to think about it. Right? I don't mean to blow up in the 11th hour, but I get what you're saying, Bolero, but no. I would honestly prefer there be no permanent capital of the United States. I would like the federal government to be constantly moving like it did in the Holy Roman Empire. Any permanent capital will turn into DC over a long enough period of time. So, all right. With that, Thank you all very much for listening. I hope you all have a very good evening, and God bless you, and take care.
When I pass on my good genes to my sons, they're going to join the Old Glory Club.